Hi, and welcome to this edition of Easy Eats. We're going to be making an easy pasta skillet dinner tonight. So here's what you're going to need. So here's your ingredients. You're going to need a pound of ground beef. Now, if you don't have ground beef or you don't like ground beef, you could also do this with chicken, ground chicken, ground turkey, ground pork, whatever ground meat you like. Okay. You're also going to need 3 cups of a tubular pasta. Now the recipe actually calls for a Mostaccioli. I don't have Mostaccioli. I've got rigatoni. Kind of the same thing. So we're going to do 3 cups. Now when you're measuring things like pasta, it's not going to be like easy, so you're going to want it to be kind of heaped up a little bit. So we're going to need 3 cups. So there's 1. Sorry to my sound guy, that's really loud. There's 2 and 3. And for the pasta, if you don't have rigatoni, essentially any short tubular pasta is fine. You could use elbow macaroni, you could use salad macaroni, you could use penne, which is another word for the Mostaccioli. What you don't want is you don't want the long, thin pastas. You don't want to do this with spaghetti or fettuccine or vermicelli. You want a short tubular one, or you could even do it with shells or even the little bow tie ones that are cute. You're also going to need a jar, okay, which is usually about 28 ounces. This one's a little bit small. It's 24 ounces. That's okay. You want a jar of spaghetti sauce, any spaghetti sauce you want, whatever you like. And then you're also going to need 8 ounces of mozzarella cheese, which is going to get shredded and also get divided. If you want to buy the pre-shredded stuff, that's okay. Totally cool. And you're also going to need some Parmesan. Okay, stuff you get in the can totally works. This is just what I have. Okay, and you're also, it's not listed in the ingredients, but you're also going to need 2.5 cups of water. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn our skillet on. You want to make sure that the skillet you have has a cover, okay, because you're going to need to cover it. So we're going to turn the stove on, okay, and we're going to start out by browning the meat. So I have this on kind of a medium high, okay, and while that's warming up, I'm going to get my meat ready. So when you have the tubes, for lack of a better word, of ground beef, here's an easy way to get them out of the tube and getting as much meat as you can out without getting all squishy in your hands. So first thing you're going to do is just snip this little part off. Be very careful with your scissors. Okay, so you just want it totally off. Okay, then go ahead and turn it upside down or whatever the pan is you're going to do and pinch a little bit. Okay, and then you're going to take your scissors again and not cutting the whole thing off. You're just going to release the vacuum. There's your science lesson for the year or for the day. Sorry, science teachers, they can have more than one. And that just releases the vacuum, gets some air behind it, and that allows you to easily just squirt the meat out of the tube. And there it goes. Set that off to the side. Okay, now you want to brown this. And sometimes this particular thing is not working right now. So usually for meat and stuff, you want to use something a little harder. So I like a wooden spoon. So to brown it, the easiest way is to just kind of mush it up. Cut it up with the wooden spoon or whatever you're using. If you have a spatula, that's fine. If you don't have one of these, use what you have. Just don't use your hands. So we're going to let this brown. Okay, so just want to mush it and you're going to stir it and flip it over every once in a while just to make sure that you're getting a nice brown color on all of it. And you want to keep breaking it up so it's kind of in smaller pieces. You don't want great big chunks in this. So again, as you are browning, you're stirring, kind of keeping it up, and you keep breaking it up into smaller pieces. All my helpers are locked outside today, and they are not very happy with me. As it browns, it'll also be a little easier to break apart. Now, if you wanted to, you could also, when you put the meat in, you could also put in some chopped onion. And then once the meat starts to brown, you can throw in some chopped garlic. You can add that if that's what you like. I didn't have any today, so I'm not putting any in. So once you get it brown, I'm going to try to lift my pan up a little bit, but this is kind of what you want it to look like. Okay. It's in littler pieces. Okay. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is you want to drain this. Okay. There's a lot of excess fat in here that we don't necessarily want. Okay. Use a slotted spoon. Preferably a metal one. I'm going to use, this is called a spider. This is what I'm using. And you're going to take the meat and you're going to put it into a bowl or a plate or something that you have lined with a paper towel. And again, if you don't have this, use a slotted spoon. If you don't have a slotted spoon, just use a regular spoon. Just make sure that you kind of tilt it on the side to get as much of the fat off as you possibly can. Okay. Then you want to take your excess fat and you need to drain it off. Do not run this down the sink. Do not run this down the sink. Do not run this down the sink. You want to put it either, I have essentially a cup that I put all my bacon grease and sometimes my hamburger grease, depending upon what I have. If you have an old tin can, that's fine. Otherwise, what you need to do is pour it off into a bowl or something else and wait for it to solidify, and then you can just throw it out in the trash. Put it in like a old grocery bag or a small Ziploc bag or something like that first. Okay. So I'm just going to pour this off. Okay, set that to the side. We use the paper towel to dry off any edges. Okay, so you're going to put your pan back on the stove, and you're going to put your now drained beef back in. See, and that's why we do that, because look at all the fat that came in. Now, we're going to, at this point, we're going to add our 2.5 cups of water. Just go ahead and pour it right in. It's going to make a loud noise and get kind of steamy. That's okay. See, it wasn't that bad. Okay. And so what you're going to do now is, now that you've put this on, go ahead and you can kick the flame up too high, because what you want now is you want the water to come to a boil. Okay. So that's the first thing we're going to do. It shouldn't take very long. If you want to speed this process up a little bit, you can go ahead and have hot water. I just had kind of room temperature water, so it'll take a little bit longer. But also because this is in a skillet as opposed to a pot, it should boil pretty quickly also. And if you want to take this moment and break up some more of the beef chunks, you can do that as well. Boil, boil, boil. That doesn't make it faster, by the way. It's just fun to do. All right, so it's starting to bubble up a little bit on the sides. I'm going to let it go a little bit more before I do the next step. There. Okay, so once the bubbles start coming up pretty rapidly, and you want them coming up kind of all over the place, next thing you're going to do is you're going to reduce the heat on the stove to medium-low. Okay, and then you're going to add your pasta. Okay, put it right in. Okay, give it a good stir. Get everything, make sure everything gets kind of wet. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put the lid on, and it needs to cook for about 15 minutes. Okay, I'm actually going to set my timer for 10 minutes and then I'm going to check it. What you're looking for is for the pasta to be tender. The traditional term is al dente, but what it means is you want it to not crunch, you know, when you chew it. So I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes and just let it sit on medium low. Now, while that's happening, you can come back to where your cheese is, okay? And you're going to need 8 ounces of mozzarella. I have a 16-ounce brick, so I'm just going to cut it in half. Okay, just like that. And I'm going to take half of it and use that, and the other half I'm going to wrap up and put back in my refrigerator to use for something else. All right, so for the mozzarella, you're going to need it, even though you're using it in 2 different ways, you want to grate all of it. So just use the big holes on a box grater if that's what you have. You know, you just want to make sure it gets nice and shredded. And again, if you want to go ahead and buy the pre-shredded stuff, that's totally cool. Okay? Use what you got. Use what's inexpensive. Use what's cheap. Okay? Inexpensive food doesn't mean, you know, it's bad or bad for you all the time. Okay, and if some of the pieces of cheese don't go up, that's fine. So 8 ounces of shredded cheese. Yeah, it's a lot of cheese. Okay. Now we're also going to need, I think it's half a cup. Yeah, half a cup of grated Parmesan. So if you have the stuff in the shaker can, that's fine. You can just use it and just put it out into a measuring cup. Let's see. I'm going to use I can go ahead and use the big slots too. So I'm just going to eyeball it for right now. But I need approximately half a cup. That's probably a little more than half a cup, but that's okay. There, again, no such thing as too much cheese. So if you want, after it's been cooking for a couple of minutes, if you want to go ahead and give it a good stir, you can do that. But the more you take the lid off, the longer it's going to take to cook. So we're just about at the end of our timer. And then we're going to need to check to see if our pasta is done. Wait for it. There it is. So turn your timer off. Now, when you have a lid on something that's been cooking, when you open it, you want to open it up away from you. Okay, so that means you're going to take it and you're going to go like that because there's going to be a bunch of steam and stuff coming out. And then I also like to let the moisture drop off and just set it off to the side. And give everything a little quick stir. And then the best way to do this is to just get a piece of pasta. Okay, so I'm going to find one. This is looking pretty thick still, pretty tough. So blow it off. Needs to cook a little bit more. So then what you do is you're just going to put the lid back on and set your timer for another 3 to 5 minutes based on how much this still needs to cook. I'm going to put it for 3 minutes. But it's easier when you're waiting for something to be done like pasta or pretty much anything. Set it for the least amount of time it has and then check it, because it's always easier to add a little bit more time than just to decide, oh, it's going to take this long to cook and then have it burn or get too mushy or something like that. So we'll wait another 3 minutes and then we'll check it again. So again, while we're waiting for the end of our 3-minute timer, it occurred to me that there are other things you can also do with this. When you add the pasta, if you wanted to put in some frozen vegetables. I like frozen mixed vegetables, but that's just me. But if there's a frozen, you could do corn, you could do peas and carrots, you could do broccoli, you could do cauliflower, pretty much any frozen vegetable. If that's what you want to do, you just put it in when you put the pasta in, and that's our timer. And you don't need to add any extra water because as they thaw and cook, they will release some of their own water. So again, we're going to open the lid away from us. Let some of the extra drain off. Give it a little stir. Get our fork. That didn't work. That's better. So again, the whole point is you just don't want it to be crunchy. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to add your spaghetti sauce. Yep, just the whole jar, just pour it all the way in. If you like, this is something I do, and I'm going to make my cameraman cranky because I'm going to move. Because it's really hard to get all of the pasta sauce out, so I usually go and put a little bit of water, put the lid back on, make sure the lid is on securely, and then give it a good shake. You can do this. Sometimes I like to use balsamic vinegar, just whatever, and then go ahead and pour that in as well. And that just helps you get your bang for your buck of your pasta sauce. Okay, once that gets in, you're going to stir that in. Make sure everything gets nice and coated. Okay. And then at this point, you are also going to add 1 cup of your shredded mozzarella. Okay. So I've got my handy dandy 1 cup measuring cup here. Okay. And again, you want it to be loose. Okay. Not just, you don't want to pack it in there. So we're going to do that. Throw that in. And you're going to give that a good stir in as well. Okay, and it'll get nice and stringy and cheesy because, yeah, there's no such thing as too much cheese. You may have noticed that our helpers are back, but I've removed the cheese from their line of sight. Okay. Now, once that's on, then what you're going to do is you're going to take the remaining cheese and you're just going to sprinkle it all over the top. Okay, you're going to do the mozzarella. You can do the Parmesan. You can layer it. You can mix it up. And again, you want to try to kind of let it roll from your fingers. Okay, you don't want big globs of it. Okay, so just spread it around. And then boop, 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 boop. Don't want to waste any cheese. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put the cover back on, and you want it to go approximately another 3 minutes or until the cheese gets all melty that's on the top. That's what we're waiting for. So I'll set the timer, but I'm also going to stay here and keep an eye on this. So based on what I'm seeing, my lid's a little bit steamy, but I've got about 5 seconds left, and it looks like it's going to be just about perfect. So turn off your timer. Again, carefully take your lid off. Oh, yeah. And that looks wonderfully melty, so you can go ahead and turn off your stove. Okay. Now I have a hot pad down. Okay. I don't know if you can see that really well, but it's all really nice and melty, and it's still bubbly. So you'll probably want to wait another 5 minutes or so. Let it cool down so you don't burn your mouth. But pretty much that's all there is to it. So easy pasta skillet on this episode of Easy Eats. Stay safe, make good choices, and wash your hands. See you next time.